Welcome to TAMA Talks, brought to you by the Torrance Art Museum Advocates. I'm Janine Madden, current TAMA president, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Today, we will be discussing work which is currently on view in the main gallery at the Torrance Art Museum in a show called Studio System, an experimental residency project. The Studio System project is a unique attempt to bridge the gap between artistic practice and the public. First held in 2015, Studio System seeks to bring the dynamism of the artist studio into the museum space, encouraging audiences not only to see the work as they are in progress, but also to interact with the artists to discuss their inspirations, sources, thoughts, feelings, content, and context, as well as chart the progression of the works over the month-long period that the project encompasses. This exhibition is on view through this Saturday, June 29th, and culminates in a closing reception at the museum from 6 to 9 p.m. The reception is open to the public, and we invite you to attend. The museum is located at 3320 Civic Center Drive in Torrance, California, and is open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Admission is free, and donations are gratefully accepted. This discussion is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel with all of our previous TAMA Talks. You can access it from our website, www.tamadvocates.com. Joining us today is Studio System resident artist Raphaele Cohen-Bacry. Originally from Paris, Raphaele studied painting and printmaking at Les Ateliers Beaux-Arts. I don't know how I did on that. Where she completed at the same time a doctorate in pharmacy and a degree in performing arts at Ecole de la Rue Blanche. These different areas of interest and study shaped her mind and made her curious about many topics in arts and science. Her time spent in the theater and set designing gave her the ability to organize a space and shape installations and exhibitions that are intriguing yet accessible. Her various training in health, particularly in integrative healing, helped her understand how art can bring relief mentally and physically to both the artist and the viewer. She has worked in her Parisian studio for several years, also making trips to New York City to work with other artists. She moved permanently to Los Angeles in 2003 and shows in both solo and group exhibitions in California, as well as in Arizona and Nevada. She is currently preparing for a large painting show at the Sahara Studio Gallery in Las Vegas in 2025. She is a recent awardee of a one-year grant from the Pisern Family Foundation, which allowed her to work with 2 Los Angeles ranches and bring art to adults and children with social and emotional challenges. We are thrilled she is currently part of the Studio System cohort at the Torrance Art Museum, which she describes as a profound experience and a unique opportunity for exploration. So welcome, Raphaele. We're so very, very pleased you could join us today.
Thank you, Janine, for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Wonderful. So you were kind enough to send some images of your work. And so this is the space.
Mm-hmm.
So Studio System is an opportunity for artists to come in. I think, are there 12?
Yes, 12 of us.
12 artists who don't know each other. Sometimes they might, but
they might. Yeah, I didn't know anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, and they get assigned to a space inside the main gallery, the larger gallery. And I think, is Ashton on the patio?
Yes, he is.
And so you started with nothing, correct? Did you come in with a blank canvas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some people maybe had a different project, but mine was completely blank.
Okay, and then over the course, it started at the beginning of June, and over the course of the month, when the museum was open and artists could come in, they worked on their pieces. And when the museum was open, the members of the community could come in and chat with you about your work. And how is that the first opportunity you've ever had where you're creating work in a space where people are watching you?
In that setting, yes, it's the first time. I had other opportunities to interact with the public, but it was not, I don't know how to describe it. This is really like having people in my studio. In the other occasion, it was more working with the public, doing things together, or guiding them, doing workshops. So the focus wasn't on me.
I
or,
see.
or other artists, obviously. So yeah, that was very new to me.
It's very cool, very wonderful. It makes me wish
Yes.
I was in LA for it. And then this next slide is just, I think this was an Instagram shot, but I thought it was interesting because I love the idea of seeing material. Will you be at the closing reception?
Yes. Yeah, this coming Saturday, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. But yes, I mean, I think that for the most part, particularly at the Torrance Art Museum and many other museums, you just see the finished work on the wall, and you never really get to see what materials go into creating it.
That's very true, and I could tell that the public was very interested in that part. Not only for me, but for all of us. They were asking a lot of questions about the process, which I was surprised that I feel the interest was as high initially as at the end, almost at the end, that they cared for the finished product, but really the steps. Some people came back to see what was going on, and that was kind of a little bit difficult for me, because that part is usually my special sauce or my recipe that I don't want to to share
Right,
too much.
right, right.
We became a little bit accustomed to do that with Instagram. A lot of people film themselves, they show, so it's not shocking for anybody, but to me that was a little bit difficult. I don't really like to reveal.
I was just gonna say, yeah, what's in the
Yes.
secret sauce? So
Yes. But I don't think it matters, but for me it was, how can I say, a bit too private,
sure, yes,
right?
yeah,
But then once, and people were super respectful, most of them wouldn't interrupt, because in my process I do collage, large pieces of collage on top of a painting. And once I applied the glue and I turned it over, and I cannot stop. If I stop, it's all messed up. The painting is messed up. The collage is, I mean, you can just, it's destroyed. So I was a little bit afraid of that people would just interrupt it. So no, I think they could really tell when we were, when we needed to keep working.
yes.
And when we would signal, like, yes, you can, let's talk.
Yeah,
So
here's
that was very pleasant, actually.
good. I'm so pleased. That's so good to hear. So good to hear. So this is the two of the pieces that you created during the studio system artist residency.
Yes. So my focus was really on the more the process than the theme, because I worked from little collages that I made before, because I knew I didn't have the time to do all that. The collage part takes a long time, even though they're small, but there's a lot of research and composition and trial and corrections. So I had my blueprint almost. So I knew pretty much where I was going, but it's a lot of mixed techniques. Sometimes I have two versions of the same collage, but with different techniques, with different colors or some variations. So those are, the finished product made after two different collages.
Okay, and I think this next one, two different pieces, yes?
Yes,
Or-
so the top
oh.
one and the top one in this picture, there's the same, from the same collage, but a different
Okay, so this is
yes.
just a later iteration of the first one.
Yes, but it's two different pieces. So it's
Okay.
different paper, different, this one has, the top one has much more paint. It's thicker, so it allowed me to work more. And this is where you have two big collages. The two characters are two collages.
I see. I see.
So
Oh,
it's really mixed media. And the bottom one is it's another one, obviously.
okay. Okay. So this is that
Yes.
the one that was on the top.
Yes, and this is where you can guess a little bit that this is paper collaged on top of another painting. Like the yellow character, it's added on.
I
If it
see.
makes
This
sense.
is
Yes.
the joust.
Yes.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, tell us a little bit about the process. The idea that you start with a painting and then apply your own work over the painting in a
Yes.
collage.
Yeah, and that was part of the experimentation at TAM. When Max, the director of the museum, told us the first meeting we had, he said, you're here to experiment, to do new things. And that triggered something. I felt like, I don't know if it's a relief or it was challenging and exciting. And I was more excited than when I came in, because when I came in, I knew what I wanted to do. I thought it's great. I'm so happy I'm going to meet new people, but I pretty much know where I'm going. I think I can do it. But once he said that, I thought, you know what, this is what I needed to excite me and do something new, because my previous project, my initial project, I can do it in my studio, right? I mean, it's big, it's a little bit cumbersome, but I know I can do it. So I thought, okay, let's try, we'll see. And he was so open-minded, and if it doesn't work, don't worry about it. I thought, okay, if it doesn't work, don't blame me. So so that's when I decided to, because I never added really large pieces of paper and stick it to a previous painting. I never did that. I always wanted to do it, but it never, so that was new. That part was new.
Oh my goodness, really? So the application of the collage part with the glue was new to Studio System?
So yes, so what I did before, I did little collages or big collages, which are very difficult to make for me, but everything was collage. Sometimes I would add a little bit of paint on top of certain areas, but never collage on top of a big painting. I don't know if it makes sense. Maybe it's too technical, but
No,
but that was that's what I wanted to try, because then you get different textures. I found it very interesting to add that. And plus, I think, especially on the picture, you don't necessarily understand that it's collage. So I like also the mystery of it. Like you see there's something, but you can't really figure out how it's happening. And I like, this is how I regained the mystery a little bit. I told you, I thought it was a little bit private and that was opening up the process, but then the finished product, I think, has some part of mystery and secret sauce.
And so is this the finished, or is there more coming?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is, yeah, I won't touch it, because again, it's on paper. So even though it's a thick paper, there are limitations. You cannot layer as much as on canvas.
Yes.
So I have to respect that. Plus, I like that feeling of not being completely, I mean, to me it's finished, but it's not, how can I don't know the word, too perfect.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
I like that rough, like it's a little bit raw.
Yes. Yes. Like the bottom of the Mary Cassatt painting. It's done, but
exactly.
it's not done, right?
It's not.
Okay, now this is actually this is 48 by 126. So this is a very large.
Yes.
On paper. This is also on paper.
So it's on paper, but if you can see, there are some, you can guess the tape, right? So this is really very like recycled paper that initially I wanted to use it just as a blueprint. So I would draw my composition on it, and then I would, I wasn't really sure how to do it, but I would reproduce it on the nice paper. But then I thought, I was very interested in that material because the tape makes it, gives it structure and some kind of pattern that I like.
Yes.
And it's very smooth and it doesn't absorb as well. It almost doesn't absorb at all compared to the good paper, and especially compared to canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to get that very sleek and I feel beautiful texture, and plus because it's so cheap, it gives you a lot of freedom, because you know the canvas paper is very expensive, and sometimes you just want to try things and without worrying about, you know, I'm gonna destroy the paper. And it's very light, so easy to move around. I can, you know, put several on top of each other. And here it's very, I like this one because it's really mixed media. You have soft pastel, or that, you know, a terracotta color. This is soft pastel.
Oh,
yes, here. You have oil pastel, the kind of on top of the character to the right. All that is oil pastel. I was trying to get the depth of a black color, but without using black. There's paint, there's charcoal, and I think it works, you know, because I picked a specific technique for a very specific reason for me. That's what I want. I want to achieve that velvety terracotta color. I cannot do it with paint. So I'm using soft pastel. So everything has a reason, and I think it's working.
yes, yes. And I also was going to say, I mean, I think that when you were talking about the cost of the paper, I think that freedom to, not that you're going to make a mistake, but that if you do, the consequences are not so devastating, right? That you
Yes.
know, that you've, yes. So it's interesting when I saw the title of the show, and again, it's in its several, you know, it's had several iterations over time. I imagined the experimental aspect to be the residency itself.
Mm-hmm.
Really, each artist has said, you know, it was really for us to experiment in our craft, in the mark making itself.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I thought the same thing. I thought, you know, maybe some people are just gonna not really try new things as far as technique, but just sharing with people, you know, being with other artists. That's an experiment in itself. So I think there are several degrees or ways of experimenting. Definitely, for me, it was everything. I just
Good. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, is this a close up, or this is the whole?
No, it's a whole, yeah, this
Okay.
is it. They're all of them are 48 inches tall, and you know, more or less the same
83.
size.
This one's 83. Yeah.
Yes,
This
yeah,
is the shipwreck.
yes.
Okay.
It's all about the same theme that I developed over 2 or 3 years, starting always with the collages. I was interested in mythology, Greek mythology, especially the confrontation and the metamorphosis of, you know, gods and humans, and you know, trying to escape, so they transform into animals, or you know, very famous Icarus, you know, almost becoming a bird. I mean, there's a lot of I don't know if you're familiar with Ovid's metamorphosis, but this is about, you know, all those myths and legends that we know. And I thought they were very, it's not necessarily the meaning that interests me, but I thought they were very interesting on a pictorial level, you know, all those transformation and weird things happening. So I started to develop a series of collages with that. And then it took me, I don't know how, but took me to a little kind of a somber theme of conflict, and you know, end of the days, or world conflict. And but again, this is the aesthetic aspect that interests me. I like the narrative. I think people also like to hear that. It's kind of giving it a backbone or some kind of strength.
Yes.
but it's not the main thing for me. It's just, it's supporting my research. But, you know, there are so many things that have been written about that. I'm not going to add anything, but on a pictorial level, I think it's very dramatic. And but also I wanted to keep it fresh and not depressing, not serious, but, you know, still, you know, a little bit uplifting, I would say, if it's possible. So that's why it's shipwreck. But I mean, I don't think it's sad to look at it. The colors are interesting. But that was a long story to tell you what is behind. So I like also that there's a theme, because I think it gives a unity to the body of work, because I work pretty fast, so I could get a little bit scattered, but with that common theme, it holds everything together for me.
And that was my next question, is that, you know, obviously you only had and I say 4 weeks rather loosely, because really it was only the 4 days a week. Or could you come in on Saturday if you wanted
Yes,
to?
yeah,
Okay.
we could come 5 days, yes.
Okay. And so you could come for all of those, or as few, or as, you know, as many
Yes.
needed to. Did you find that you had enough time to complete what it was that you wanted to show on each work?
Yes, I had enough time, but I think it's because I was lucky that my experimentation worked. Because if I could have easily lost maybe a week or two, just, you know, I did try something that didn't work, but that was just half a day on
Okay.
a different thing. And that's, I think I needed a break anyway. So for me, it worked. I had enough time. I'm still going to work 3 more days. So I'm hoping to do maybe 1 or 2 more, because I also have an agenda that you mentioned, that show I'm going to do next year in Las Vegas. And I want to bring big work on paper. I think it will work. So TAM is really a good place for me to make those large work on paper. In my studio, it's a little bit more difficult. So thinking if I can make 2 more, that would help me.
Wonderful. That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's get to so Daphne Changed into a Laurel Tree is the title of this particular piece. And this is not included in the show?
It is, yes.
It is. Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. Okay, great. I love the colors. And again, it's that mixed media, the idea that you're using all sorts of different media to create this one image.
Yes.
And could you tell us a little bit about that collage process? Do you paint on a piece of paper, like on a square piece of paper, and then cut randomly, or draw out the shapes and then cut them? Or it's so Matisse, right? So how does
Yes.
that
No, that's great that you're interested in this. So I have several ways of doing it. Sometimes I did the drawing, what I call the blueprint, twice. So once on the definite paper, what I call the good canvas paper, and another one on that, you know, recycled paper. And I decide, so for example, in this painting, the kind of snail shape, like orangey thing so that's all. That big thing is collage. This is yeah. So this one, I had my cheap paper blueprint, and I just I painted it and then put different type of media, and then I cut it out, put the glue on the other side, and just stuck it to the canvas paper. But I also did, for example, the top with those stripes, like black and white. Yes, this I took a random piece of paper, and I just used charcoal. And because you have to use a fixative on these, otherwise they all, you know, they fade out. So I went outside, I used fixative, because it's kind of a very strong smell. I came back and cut once it was dry, and then so different techniques depending. because it's kind of difficult to glue a large piece of paper, especially if it has a lot of details. So initially, the first painting we saw with the two big characters, the yellow one, this I cut out the whole character, and it was really difficult to do. So then I changed a little bit, and so I do little like the stripes. It's one part, and then I glue another one, and so I made my life a little bit easier.
And then there's additional pieces over this one. So is this is here? Is there more of this under here?
No, no,
Oh,
I like
no.
it.
Okay,
It's
so
a optical
okay,
effect.
I
Yeah,
see.
no.
Okay, okay. Yeah, our brain forces us to see things that may or may not really be there, and so
Which I like, right? Because
yes.
it creates
Well,
an illusion.
and again, a piece like this, I think it's so important because one of the things that I talk about often when I'm talking to people about looking at art, particularly abstract contemporary art like this, the idea is that you really do need to stand in front of it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
there's no label, and I don't like to have people look at the title until they stare, you know, they stand in front of it for a little bit
Mm-hmm.
to
That's
just
smart.
kind of absorb it all and see what all of the and see what touches them and what moves them when they see it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good idea. And actually, during the residency, I used I made large, a big format because I think it makes an impression on people, and it hopefully it captured their attention. I don't think big paintings are better or have more value than little ones. I love little work, and I'm very attached to my little collages because I think that's where all the creativity for me is happening. The painting, I love making them, and I think the creativity is more into the technique and the different media. It's great, but to me, the creative act is really in the composition and the research of with the colors and the different um, values. But I don't think not many people understand that, and they might not pay attention to small work. Some people do, but a lot of people, especially nowadays, we were into the monumental
Yes,
art.
yes, the Mark Bradford
And
pieces of the world.
yeah, and
Yes.
sometimes just because it's gigantic, it gets respect.
Right.
So I'm aware of that, but I
Oh,
think you have to also accept it and
yes.
work around it. Yeah.
Everything can't be a Guernica. So
No.
okay. And this piece, I was really drawn to this. This is Hunting of the Snark. And I think it's just I'm particularly drawn to the blue green here, but also obviously the pink. And all of it actually. It was one of those pieces when you sent it, I thought, oh, I cannot wait for you to talk about this.
So this is also a painting and on canvas, and I have a whole series of again paintings that I made after my collages. But here it's very similar to the original collage, and all that series of painting I did until I came to the residency was very similar. It was just taking my little collages and blowing them up, which was very new to me because my um, usual way of painting is much more gestural. Is that a word? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
More instinctive, a lot of layering. But and that was fantastic for me. But I reached that. I'm sorry, it's a long answer, but you see where I'm going with that. But so I loved it, and I loved the painting. But I felt like I was hitting a wall or making more of what was already out there.
Okay.
And not that I want to innovate, but it stimulates you when you feel like you're contributing to something a little bit different or more personal. And I had the feeling that I could make hundreds of paintings like this, and that would be very satisfying to me. But and so what? So that's when I shifted to collage. I just needed a break, and I thought, okay, let's do something completely different. No paint, no brushes. So I removed that sensual relationship with the material and
Okay.
the excitement of, okay, so, and I wanted to see if I would still enjoy, but I did. So wonderful experience. It worked. It took a while, but I found my way, my own language with collage. But then again, I thought those collages were like little paintings. So let's try to make large painting. But I couldn't be as free with the paint because, you know, I had that very precise collage that I wanted people to feel the same thing looking at the big painting as looking at the color. So anyway, I had to be very detailed. And so here I really like the result of all those paintings that I called fake collages, but the process was not very enjoyable, you know, because you have to be so detailed and finding, I mean, not unpleasant, but not specifically. It was more like almost like an artisan or craft
I
person,
see.
you know.
Okay, like like the process, there was a process you had to follow to get the
Yes,
results.
yes. No spontaneity, no, you know, just the only not exciting, but new thing was, you know, trying to create, like you mentioned, that blue. It sometimes was very difficult to recreate that same. It probably comes from another artist painting that he probably did with a lot of freedom. And here I am, and I want to reproduce the same thing, but without the freedom, and, you know, and contained in a very specific shape that wasn't the shape initially. So very interesting process, but not a lot of enjoyment. So that's why when I was at TAM, I thought I want to still do work after my collage, still achieve the same overall feeling, but with more gestural and more freedom in the way I make the painting. So that's the whole story. So here it's just very contained painting. But what I like is that I don't think, you can tell me, but I don't think the viewer feels that constraint. I think the result is pretty free.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of that is, you know, the free form, you know, of the pink is very, I don't want to say loose because it isn't, but at the same time, it isn't, like you were saying, it's not that very straight line gestural. It is tight, but at the same time free. I'm not sure that makes a lot of
No,
sense,
it breathes. I feel
yeah.
you know, looking at it now, I can feel it's pretty open, and so
Yes.
that's, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, this is a piece that, you know, if it were hanging on your wall, you know, I think every time you look at it, you see something different.
Yes.
Like I'm like seeing a Picasso in there. I'm seeing all sorts of things that are all happening at once, you know, and it's beautiful. So I love this
Thank
piece.
you.
All right. Now this is a little bit more somber.
Mhm.
And perhaps it's just the I'm not sure if hue is the right word. It's just the darkness of the piece, but there's an ominous
Yes.
nature about it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's when my theme shifted a little bit towards, you know, more somber theme.
Okay.
But I also really like what you said about the previous painting when you said did you say Picasso or?
I did. Let me go back
Because
to it myself.
yeah,
I'll show you, like this little piece in here for me was just very Picasso-esque, and so was all this in here. Like I think it
it's very interesting. I'm so glad you said that, because that was also my intention when I started collage. I work a lot with auction magazines. So
oh,
so I take images of paintings, you know, a lot. That could also be a little bit of other magazines, but the backbone is really. So I was interested to see how that would influence also the final product, right? To work, but it's pieces of different paintings, obviously, of sometimes
yes,
different
right.
centuries, you know, that could be century apart. But the next painting, um, it's also influenced by surrealists.
Yes, I was going to say it's very
Right.
Dali. It's
Yeah.
very Dali
Which
from Yes.
Yes, which I didn't know when I
Oh,
started. I had no idea that, and I think there might be one piece from a Dali. I'm not even sure,
okay.
but I don't know. It translated in the painting that I was looking at surrealist, and this is something I always wanted to achieve, to carry something from a previous movement without copying or
Yes.
without repeating. I don't really like the neo this or neo that. It's everything is neo, yeah, right? It's today. Like even
It's right.
contemporary art
Mhm,
doesn't make sense. Contemporary art, of course,
mhm.
it's today, right?
Yes.
So, but I wanted to carry that like a revisiting the surrealist. I prefer that. So, and that's probably why it's more somber. You can see like the top part now. I didn't know it when I made it, but I almost feel like it's a Black Panther or something.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, here, yes.
yes, but
Yeah,
that came
this is a little
afterwards.
bit of the, melting clock thing, and so,
That,
yeah.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, and
Oh,
thank you for noticing, because I love when people, like, I leave some clues, not
yes,
necessarily intentionally, but some people, yeah,
yeah,
recognize that.
yes, and again, I think it's the play of the light and the dark and the light here. When we were in Florida, we went to the Dali Museum. I can't remember where it was, but it was absolutely fascinating. And he has that technique of creating smaller works embedded in his larger works
Yes,
that you have to kind of really look very closely to see. But yeah, and the whole scales, although I think, is this a basket? This is a basket case,
yes,
but for
yes.
me, it's very scaly, and then
Yeah.
there's skin, and I'm just like, I love this.
And you know what's very interesting is that I didn't like the surrealist, and even Dali, I didn't
Oh,
like it. I mean, I recognize the a lot
sure.
great painting, a lot of talent, very, but really, I wasn't even looking at it. But
Yes.
now I love it. So it's just, I don't know if it's just by looking at it or
Yes, I think it's like anything, when you look at a piece that, and I do tell, when I'm like giving a tour in the gallery, I will tell people, I know, like some people will walk by a piece and they'll be like, I don't like it. And I will always ask them, you didn't really look at it. How can you tell me that you don't like it?
yes,
Spend some time in front of it. And I think you just gain an appreciation after
yes,
looking at a piece for so long. And then certain aspects of it just speak to you. Like for me, this is almost like a little portal into another universe. I'm not really sure what's that's
very
all about.
true.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Absolutely wonderful.
thank you.
Okay. I like this one because I'm a sciencey person, and for me, this is very this very aortic for me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's very true. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
also my background, I guess.
yes, well, I was so surprised. We didn't even get a chance to talk about that, but the fact that you have a pharmacy degree as well
Mhm.
as your art degree, and then was the other one theater?
Yes, yeah,
Theater.
performing School of Performing Art. Yeah, I
Oh,
was in the set designing and then not on stage. Yeah.
okay, okay. Um, but yes, this one I loved as well. And I think again, it was just talking to the science girl in me. So love
Yes.
it.
So this one it's also a little bit older, 3 years. It's
Yeah.
3 years old. But so that's another example of a painting that's really the almost perfect rendering of a collage. Almost, I mean, not perfect, but very close to the collage. And this is a challenge because, for example, the bottom part on the right, this is I mean, the in the original collage, I just dripped paint, right?
Yes.
On
Yes.
okay. But to reproduce that, with control on a large scale, and I still wanted to give that feeling of something that's dropping, um, that but you cannot really drop on that kind of scale. So if it makes sense. So that was the challenge, to try to keep that fluidity and spontaneity, but in a very controlled way, because you have to do it,
So this
reproduce
is
something.
actually acrylic on canvas. So this is not a collage.
Yeah,
This is just a painting. Not just a painting, but you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It's
No,
simply,
absolutely.
not
Yeah,
even simply, this is a painting but when you look at it, you're right. It's sort of, you think it is a collage just because
Yeah.
these very hard lines here that, cut off. But what you're saying is that, did you use one of your collages as an inspiration
Yes.
to, okay.
Not even an inspiration. It's the complete reproduction.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, the color. I mean, it's except that it's shinier because it's on magazine paper. But
Yes.
this is the whole series of painting that I call for myself. I call them fake collage, make believe
Yes.
collages. So they
Okay.
really look, yeah.
Yeah, this is giving me like a Leonardo effect up here, and I don't know, like a Van Gogh thing down here. Yeah, it is and again, our brains just kind of seek out things that are familiar to us, and then we attribute them to what we're looking at. And like Max always says, it's not a dolphin, but
Yes,
when you're
no,
standing in
but
front of it, it moves you in a certain way.
it does, and that also once I got into collage, I read a little bit about it because I had a show in a medical school in Arizona,
Oh,
with a neurology. I mean, the neurologist was also the curator, the director of the gallery, the art space. So I wanted to explore a bit more to explain more what I was doing, and it's very interesting that psychologists and even psychiatrists, they use collage with their
yes.
patients,
Mhm.
and then I researched even more, and I saw that it does something to your brain when you look at collage, because you're trying to put those things together,
Yes.
and like you're saying, you kind of want to know where's it coming from, and sometimes like you saw it so well as those two gray part, they're from the same image, so sometimes you can recognize pattern. It's very interesting phenomenon. To make it and to look at it, it's a little bit different than just a regular painting.
Yes, we do sort of seek to, what is it, anthropomorphize, but also I think
Yes.
just create order from what we perceive as chaos, when
Hmm.
it really is just, I know my husband in particular will say, I just don't get it. I'm like, you don't need to get it. You just need to appreciate it and, recognize that it is confusing your brain on purpose, because we don't have to always see everything with this high
Yes.
degree of order and certainty, and we don't have to know what it is to appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think you can train yourself. It's also
Yes,
being
yes.
exposed more, and I
Mhm.
think today, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of attention. We don't, we switch very easily. Also, having a problem with the screen because it makes everything so shiny and uniform, and it's very hard to show different texture.
Yes, yes.
And even I become a victim of it, because I'm a little bit disappointed sometimes when I see the real thing. Even my paintings, sometimes I think, oh, they look better on the screen.
Oh,
So I'm afraid we're training ourselves to see everything very, very
flat. Yeah,
shiny and clean, and so I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Because some of, like you were saying, some of those images are very highly pixelated. So like,
Yes.
when you're looking at an image, I know that like the National Gallery will post some images and I'll zoom in and you can see the, the
Yes.
paint and the layers of it. And again, I know that you can see that when you're looking at them in real life too. But yes, I think our eyes we are getting a little bit used to seeing images on a screen versus going in and seeing them in person. So,
But even when you see them in person, I notice now they all, I think everywhere I go, the big museum, they have glass on top of
yes,
paint,
yes,
and
yes,
it makes everything uniform. To me, it bothers. I understand why they're doing it, but it bothers me that you don't have that contact with the paint. So that's why I thought, studio system was so fantastic, because people see the real thing.
yes, yes,
So
absolutely. And the materials that create it, which I think is fascinating.
yes, very true.
Oh, I love these. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to throw something different because
And do
I
you
work.
have this at TAM, or is this just
No, it's
separate?
my
Oh,
studio.
these
Yeah.
are fascinating, fascinating pieces. I love them. Okay. But this is so this is the front view and then the reverse.
Yes, yeah, because
Yes.
they're very different. It's not pottery, you know, where, I mean, you can do whatever you want with pottery, but they're very different from all angles.
Yes, this is clay, a working clay.
It's a special clay that you know, kids use, but it dries. It becomes hard, but
Okay.
there's no firing.
Oh, no
So that,
firing. So air dry clay. Yes.
Mhm,
And then what
yeah.
is the paint? Acrylic?
No, it's just the clay.
Oh,
Different.
wait.
It's colored clay.
It's just the clay.
Yeah, that's why
Oh,
I like, and
wow.
yeah, well, I wanted to show that because I don't know if I want, I'm a painter, you know, but I do so many other things, and it's just because sometimes it serves a purpose. I wanted to make those little things. I want to experiment with different material and divert them. Like this clay, I use it almost like what do you call them? The glass blower.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Even look at this is very, glass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I like to do that. It makes me happy to take something that's very basic and just push it to its limit and use it different. I don't know if it's important to people who look at it, but to me, it makes it more interesting. You know?
Yes. Okay, and we have one more clay piece. Oh, yes. And so again, this is the actual colors of clay
Yeah. Yes.
that you have created. This would be a fantastic workshop, you know, to
Yes.
a family workshop to do, because you would be getting I chatted with Jacqueline Valenzuela
Yes.
earlier,
Oh,
and
she's
so
great.
she was, yes, and it was you know, the two of you, even though your work is very different, the two of you spoke about so many things. Actually, everyone has spoken about the same sort of things, and how having people come and she did this thing where she has a her work is at the Peterson automobile
Uh-huh.
downtown.
Yes.
And so she made some paper lowriders, and she let them color, like let families color them. And she said, you know, there were 50 or 60-year-old people, artists, who were coming in and creating their own. And so I think that
Oh, great.
something like this just allows you a freedom to create in a very non-judgmental, you know, just create what
Yes.
you're going to create, and it is what it is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful when it's done.
Yeah. Very true.
Wow. So great, so wonderful. Okay, I think that's it. That's the
That's it.
that we had. So I really want to thank you so much for joining us today and telling us a little bit about your process and your work. And you're still there for a week, yes? This
Yes.
last
Just
week.
one more week. Yes.
And so we hope that people will go out and again, you know, these are just little teasers. They're really not meant to replace the experience. There are people, obviously, I'm like 3,000 miles away, so it's hard for me to get to the camp. But but for the people who are local, one of the reasons why we do TAMA Talks is so that, for two reasons. One is if they you know, if they can get into the museum while the exhibition is still going on, then they can see these pieces in person, up close, and in this case, actually speak with the artist who's created them,
Mhm.
which is fantastic. And then also, we do have some folks who aren't really heading out to museums again yet, so they get a chance to see the work and experience it and hear a little bit of background about it, that if they were to just go into the TAM and look at the piece or look at it online,
Mhm.
may not have a clear, I don't like to use the word understanding, may not have that background. I think that's something
Yes.
important for them to hear when they're looking at such extraordinary pieces. So
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasant conversation.